a church, a school, a military base, a theater, and a business center. Places people go to get an education, worship God, work, or train to defend our country. Places that people should always feel safe. Places that people should never feel that they are in harm's way. But places that some of the worst massacres in our nation's history have occurred. A church in South Carolina where just this summer 9 people were killed. A school in New Jersey where in 2012 27 people were killed, 20 of them being children. A military base in Texas where 4 people were killed. A theater in Aurora, Colorado where 12 people were killed. And a business center in California where just last week 14 people were killed. The topic of gun control has Americans divided. Those who support gun control believe that tighter restrictions and regulations would lessen the occurrence and damage of these sort of events. Those who oppose gun control stand by the Second Amendment and say that it is unconstitutional to put these regulations on guns. These are both sides of view when it comes to this issue, and I will now further discuss the beliefs of those who oppose gun control. Know that when discussing these views, I will take the opinion of the side that I am discussing, but I will not interject my own personal opinion until the very end. According to the Los Angeles Times, 2 out of the 5 guns used in the recent California attacks were supplied by a friend of one of the attackers. This is one of the main points made by Second Amendment supporters. Criminals and terrorists will always find a way to get their hands on guns, no matter how many laws or regulations that you put in their way. In fact, California has some of the most strict gun laws. According to NPR.org, buying a gun requires background checks, a waiting period, and gun registration. And they even have a ban on assault rifles and certain magazine sizes. And they are a may-issue state when it comes to concealed weapons, which I will cover later. Those against gun control argue that regardless of this ban, these shooters were able to get their hands on these guns with these altercations were considered unlawful in the state of California. And not only do these laws appear ineffective, but some believe that they are also infringing upon the rights of law-abiding citizens. I was discussing how California is a may-issue state when it comes to concealed weapons, which means that even if someone passes the background checks necessary and all other tests that they need to receive a concealed weapons permit, California has the right to deny them that right. And many Second Amendment supporters believe that in any of these tragedies, they could have been avoided had one person in any of the places had a concealed weapon on them. Their famous line is, "Guns don't kill people, people kill people." And according to Kyle Winterstein of Guns and Ammo, there are studies that show children introduced to guns associate them with freedom, security, and recreation, not violence. They want to really focus on education rather than regulation. Having just explained the viewpoints of those opposed, I will now focus on the viewpoints of those who support gun control. Those who support stricter gun laws would first counter the concealed weapons argument. They believe that just because somebody obtains a concealed weapons permit, which requires a 4-hour class, maybe some firearm training, and then you have your certificate, they argue that that does not entitle someone to act as a police officer would in a situation. That amount of training might not suffice what it takes to protect those around you. They also argue that stricter laws would lower homicide rates, and according to guncontrolprocon.org, countries that have more restrictive gun control laws have lower homicide and suicide rates. Switzerland has more strict gun laws than the United States. They require gun owners to acquire licenses and take background checks pertaining to mental and criminal history. In 2007, the homicide rate in Switzerland was 0.31 deaths per 100,000 people, Just 2 years later in the United States, that same rate was 4.19 deaths per 100,000 people, which is almost 14 times as high. 14 times higher. It appears clear that the stricter laws are leading to safer communities. Gun control supporters would also say that the Second Amendment is somewhat outdated. The Second Amendment also made it a criminal act in colonial America to transfer guns to Catholics, indentured servants, slaves, and Native Americans. And this even was discussed in a U.S. Supreme Court case, the District of Columbia versus Heller, and Justice Antonin Scalia wrote, "Like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. From Blackstone through the 19th century cases, commentators and courts routinely explained that it was not a right to keep and carry a weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever for whatever purpose." It's clear that those who support gun control do not believe that it is an unlimited right to own a gun. Increased control based off these points is both constitutional and effective in keeping our communities safe. What I just explained over the past couple minutes was the viewpoint of those who support gun control, and I will now close by summarizing the information I've covered and giving you a little bit of my opinion. Now, one thing that I believe gets lost in this whole argument is everybody has the same goal. We're all looking for safer communities to keep our family, friends, children, teachers, brothers, police officers, everybody. We're trying to keep all of our communities safe, and I think that gets lost in this huge disagreement. Those who oppose gun control are focusing on the fact that it's infringing rights of law-abiding citizens, and it's taking away their ability to protect themselves because they believe these criminals are going to get their hands on the guns anyway. And those who support gun control believe that there's clear evidence that these stricter laws will lower homicide rates and that it's not the job of citizens to enforce these laws. Now, in particular, in my opinion, when it comes to the concealed weapons permits, I don't necessarily believe that that amount of training allots someone the ability to protect those around them. But I also don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have, law-abiding citizens armed around you, because there are a lot of bad people in the world. But I'm going to close with this. If you're trying to find out your opinion on this, think of this question. What would make you feel safer? Walking into a building where a sign reads, "Guns banned on premises," or where a sign reads, "Concealed weapons welcomed"? Thank you.